Hi everyone, my name is Natalie Laytow and I bring you greetings from Perth in Western Australia. Thank you for the opportunity to be a part of this webinar in which we look at some of the challenges and strategies in teaching global education. The things I'll be talking about today are how we do global education in Australia, a little bit of a background to that, and I also want to talk about the role of the One World Centre. And I guess the two main challenges that I've identified, the first one is to do with having a crowded curriculum and teachers finding it a battle to find time to teach global education on top of everything else that they have to do. And a second challenge that I've identified is having access to resources, not just for children to use in the classroom, but also for teachers to access when they're preparing their global education programs. So to begin with, I want to give you some background to global education in Australian schools. It's actually thought to have begun back in the 1960s. One of the major steps along the way included the development of a Global Perspectives resource back in 2002, and this was updated more recently in 2008. The resource has been partly informed by two national education statements, one that was compiled in 1999 and the other one more recently in 2008. And both of these national education statements declared that schooling should assist young Australians to become active, involved citizens who can make sense of their world. So in providing an explanation of what global education is, the Global Perspectives document suggests that it's one that enables young people to participate in a better shared future for all. And the statement goes on to say global education promotes open-mindedness, leading to new thinking about the world and a predisposition to take action for change. Students learn to take responsibility for their actions, respect and value diversity, and see themselves as global citizens who can contribute to a more peaceful, just, and sustainable world. One of the goals included in the most recent National Education Statement, which is known as the Melbourne Declaration on Educational Goals for Young Australians, is for all young Australians to become active and informed citizens. That goal has been further divided into a series of sub-goals, and I'll read through these on the next two slides. We want our students to act with moral and ethical integrity. We want our students to appreciate Australia's social, cultural, linguistic and religious diversity and have an understanding of Australia's system of government, history and culture. For our students to understand and acknowledge the value of Indigenous cultures and possess the knowledge, skills and understanding to contribute to and benefit from reconciliation between Indigenous and non-Indigenous Australians. The sub-goals continue on the next slide here. We aim for our students to be committed to national values of democracy, equity and justice and participate in Australia's civic life. For our students to be able to relate to and communicate across cultures, especially the cultures and countries of Asia. We want our students to be able to work for the common good, in particular, sustaining and improving natural and social environments, and for our students to be responsible, global and local citizens. So this is the goal explained in more detail as it was decided in the Melbourne Declaration on Educational Goals for Young Australians. So you can see very strong links here to global education. So alongside that Melbourne Declaration in 2008, with that goal of active and informed citizens being made very explicit, we've also had another recent development in the education sector in Australia, and it's been the adoption of a nationwide curriculum. Now, the Australian curriculum is designed to develop successful learners, confident and creative individuals, and active and informed citizens. The initial stages of implementation of the new curriculum began in 2012, and we are currently in the last phases of the transition from numerous state and territory-based curriculums to one that is common across Australia. And as we'll see, it's based on the outcomes and the goals that were established at that Melbourne Declaration. So as one would expect, across the curriculum, we now have these direct links with global education. And we'll have a look at the first of just 3 of these as examples, this one being the Humanities and Social Sciences area, otherwise known as HASS. And within HASS, we teach history, geography, civics and citizenship, economics and business. Part of the introduction in Humanities and Social Sciences learning area reads that this area requires thinking about and responding to issues that require an understanding of the key historical, geographical, political, economic and societal factors involved and how these factors interrelate. The humanities and social sciences subjects provide a broad understanding of the world in which we live and how people can participate as active and informed citizens. So quite clearly here we can see direct links with aspects of global education. On the next slide, I'll show you another example. This one's in the science learning area. And again, I've highlighted and read those direct links through to global education. So in the rationale, we read, science provides an empirical way of answering interesting and important questions about the biological, physical, and technological world. The knowledge it produces has proved to be a reliable basis for action in our personal, social, and economic lives. Science is a dynamic, collaborative, and creative human endeavour arising from our desire to make sense of our world through exploring the unknown, investigating universal mysteries, making predictions, and solving problems. So again, we can see some clear links through to global education. Just one more example that I've taken from the Australian curriculum to demonstrate this is in the learning area of technologies. Technologies enrich and impact on the lives of people and societies globally. Australia needs enterprising individuals who can make discerning decisions about the development and use of technologies, develop solutions to complex challenges, and contribute to sustainable patterns of living. Technologies can play an important role in transforming, restoring, and sustaining societies and natural, managed, and constructed environments. So this is where we see that the new Australian curriculum has really taken into account aspects of global education, and it's been embedded in discrete subject areas or learning areas. But there's another unique feature of the Australian curriculum that I'm going to show you just now. This is where we have something called cross-curriculum priorities. So while we have got those aspects of global education within discrete learning areas, with our cross-curriculum priorities, there's an opportunity to draw on global education, as it says, across the curriculum, not just within a discrete learning area. Now, the 3 key areas of the Melbourne Declaration have been built on to formulate these cross-curriculum priorities. The first one being Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander histories and cultures. The second one is Asia and Australia's engagement with Asia. And the third one is sustainability, specifically social, economic, and environmental sustainability. So these 3 priorities link directly with global education, particularly in light of our definition with regard to students seeing themselves as global citizens who can contribute to a more peaceful, just, and sustainable world. Now, the idea with the cross-curriculum priorities is for teachers to look for opportunities to draw on these naturally and frequently and across specified learning areas. It's not about forcing certain ideas to fit when they really don't belong, but about being alert to and capitalising on teachable moments as they occur. And I can give you a quick example here that I used last year when I was teaching a 1-2 class. And we were looking in history at significant buildings and significant sites, parts of the natural environment and what they reveal to us about people from the past. And in doing this, we had identified Uluru as being a particular area of significance, especially for Indigenous people, for traditional landowners. And it so happened that the week we were looking at this was also the 30-year anniversary of when Uluru was handed back to traditional owners, and the traditional name was also returned. And so this was a significant historical event or date in the calendar, and I was able to make mention of it, drop it into the discussion with the children, just bring it to their attention as a natural part of the conversation of what we were learning about anyway. But in so doing, I was able to draw on this particular cross-curriculum priority of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander histories and cultures being recognised and valued. So in talking about the new Australian curriculum, how it is set out with the cross-curriculum priorities, I think that's been a really good way of addressing that first challenge I mentioned of teachers being time poor and not really knowing how to do global education along with everything else. The way that the Australian curriculum has been formulated, global education is embedded throughout the curriculum. So it really does enable staff to be able to develop those ideas strongly in their teaching programs. The second challenge that I had identified at the beginning of this session was the area of resources, and how that's a challenge for teachers to be able to locate resources for themselves, for their planning, and also for students to use in the classroom. And so the next strategy that I'm mentioning here is one in which I believe helps us to overcome that challenge, particularly here in Western Australia. And that's through this wonderful organisation called the One World Centre. The One World Centre provides professional education in universities and the private, government and community sector. It actually began about 30 years ago, and it was initially an educational arm of Community Aid Abroad. So the One World Centre now plays a really integral role. It's a non-government, not-for-profit organisation, has a wonderful team of volunteers who also enable the work to be done. And the vision at One World Centre is for a more just and sustainable world through global education. And so by specialising in providing professional development and resources for early childhood, primary and secondary educators throughout Western Australia, One World Centre is able to support staff to incorporate global education in their teaching programs. So under the area of professional education, some of our workshops are held on university campuses with undergraduate students, pre-service teachers. Some of our workshops are held on school sites with staff who are working there. We also have some workshops that are held at the One World Centre during break times, term breaks or semester breaks. We've had undergrad university students come and participate in some of those workshops. So lots of opportunities to share the professional education, but also with so private as well as the government and community sector, as I mentioned earlier. The centre houses a comprehensive library of global education resources which are available for loan to members throughout Western Australia. These include teacher resource books, there are fiction books, DVDs, we've got a poster and map collection, and there's also hands-on materials for working with children. Some of these hands-on materials include teaching kits, discovery boxes, simulation games, and there's even a small collection of musical instruments. And I've used a number of these kits and discovery boxes myself, and the children just love it because these are real objects, real artifacts from around the world, and they're fairly robust, so the children can play with them, interact with them, and just really deepens their understanding about other communities and cultures. And there's also a number of books that go along with these, which are really great when you want to expand it into your literacy lessons or some other set learning area. The One World Centre is also involved in local community engagement projects relating to global issues, and collaborates with other organisations working in the areas of development, human rights, and global sustainability. On our website, you can learn more about global education. You can access our library catalogue. You can download some ready-to-use teaching resources. You can also find out about upcoming professional learning events, become part of our network through Facebook or Twitter, sign up for our newsletter, or just join the conversation on our blog. On a personal note, I'm excited about the future of global education here in Western Australia. We have an excellent foundational resource in the Global Perspectives document, set alongside a new Australia-wide curriculum, which has a global citizenship focus. We also have access to training and an extensive resource collection at the One World Centre, and I believe we are in a strong position to educate young people to become informed and active global citizens. Thank you.